Hello and welcome to this webinar entitled Fitness for Purpose, Right to Reject and Refunds, the Key Consumer Rights and Remedies with me, Keith Markham. As always, let's begin with a brief look at the agenda for this session today. So we're going to look at quite a lot of stuff that's found in the Consumer Rights Act 2015. That is the key legislation in respect of the following issues. So the sale of goods, digital content, and the supply of services. And we're going to look at the key rights and remedies that are set out in this legislation. Now, bear in mind that during the course of this session, we're going to focus on the strict legal position in terms of this particular regime that has been created. Just bear in mind, whether you're acting for a consumer or a trader, that does not prevent potentially a consumer bringing an action for, say, misrepresentation or generally claiming damages for breach of contract. Also bear in mind that traders can be more generous in terms of the rights that they might offer or the remedies they might offer consumers. So we'll focus on the strict legal position. We will look at the rights, we'll look at the remedies, and we'll look at one or two specific examples of that. Then we will briefly touch on enhanced consumer measures, which are also found in the Consumer Rights Act 2015. These are certain things that the regulator and indeed the courts can add on to enforcement action if there are breaches. And then finally, we will look very briefly today at the new legislation, the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act 2024. Now, this is very wide-ranging. Most of what it deals with does not touch sale of goods, digital content, services. However, the key thing to note is if you are seriously in breach in any of those areas, potentially you could be subject to the new enforcement powers, which are going to be available under this legislation. So just be aware, we will briefly look at what those are, but essentially the main body of law that we'll talk about today, sale of goods, digital content, services, enhanced consumer measures, all of that is unaffected by the new legislation, save where you're in breach, in which case there are improved enforcement powers.